Time for a very scuffed tutorial on how to use your model, my friend. This is VTube Studio. Assuming you have it all installed, you can load your models. If you don't know where to install your model, just click here, and you'll need to install it wherever you have VTube Studio installed. You can open the folder directly and drop it in there. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to go over that. We're going to go to our model, this one, and I'm going to show you just kind of like how everything works. So we've got our, rigging, body movement, physics, all that stuff going on. But let's say you want to like tinker with the face tracking a little bit. Let's go to the gear icon, and under the camera, tracking settings. So like model when tracking lost. So let's say, I'm leaning over here, and then my webcam forgets that I exist. It's set to go back to default, and he has a sleepy animation that plays when the camera loses tracking as an idle animation. I haven't really messed with any of this stuff. Eye blinking, I always just have it linked always, because sometimes you get like lizard blink. Although this does disable like winking. It's up to you on that one. Blink sensitivity, these are things that you'll want to tinker with based on your facial expressions, like the range of movement in your face, and just like if you feel like the mouth opens too much, you can like lower the mouth open sensitivity, and that might help a little bit. If you feel like it doesn't open enough, you can raise it. Brow sensitivity. I have a very cartoony Jim Carrey style face that can squish all over the place and make a bunch of expressions, so my settings will probably be different from yours. Definitely feel free to just tinker with these. Down here you have like display lighting, fancy lighting. Honestly, I haven't really used any of this, so YouTube tutorial is going to be your best friend on how to use these things. Virtual webcam, I haven't used, but here is the more of the actual like model functions, like based on how the rigging is set up in this menu up here, and then you'll scroll down. So for example, we have each of these functions has an input. So the input is what your camera is seeing, and the output is what is being output on the model. So for example, let's go to the eye open. So the webcam sees that my eyes are open, which you can see here. Let's scroll all the way up here. So this is what the webcam is seeing. So you can see the eyebrows up and down, the eyes opening and closing, the pupil direction, mouth smile, frown, open, close, all that stuff. So this is what the webcam is seeing, and then this is like programmatically like, okay, eye open right is when the webcam sees the right eye is open. We're going to output the eye open parameter. So like if you feel like maybe your model's like squinty, blinky all the time, maybe because you have narrow eyes, you can tinker with these settings. So like when my eyes are open, it's hovering around 93.8, and that's working for me, but you can tinker with the setting. Mouse smile, IX. I don't think generally you won't need to mess with most of the face tracking, but you can. You can always put it back to the default settings if you need to, or I can send you the default settings again. Let's do face left right rotation. So face angle X, that is specifically when your nose is turning to the right or to the left, like this. This is face angle left and right, and it's outputting the face param angle X, which is the head looking left and right. I don't know, let's say for some reason you want it to be when you look right, like I am. Let's say maybe I'm looking right, but you want the model to look left for some reason, and reverse all of your tracking for some reason. You could literally just switch these values. Ignore all the hotkeys that are going off. And now when I look to the right, he's looking left. I'm going to go ahead and keep that set to the default. Ignore the hotkeys, please. face lean rotation, I did mess with. I would like to mess with face lean. Yes, because this originally was 30-30, but so let me put that back to the default. Like, his head movement didn't really move as much as I would like, so because when I tilt my head, so like this is like when your ear is going to your shoulder. When my ear is going to my shoulder, I'm not actually like going this far. Like my ear is literally touching my shoulder right now to get it at 30. I usually only go to like about this far, so like 15, 20. Like camera wise, like I have to go like this to get it all the way to 30, but I really like my actual like natural movement is only like this rather than all the way like that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on 20. Just kind of like reduce the amount of movement that I have to do to get his head to tilt. So now if I only tilt my head a little bit, you'll notice the model kind of like tilts more. I feel like this is more natural for me, so I'm just gonna leave it at this. I'm gonna turn the hotkeys off for a second. Let's do, I think the most body Z rotation. I'll show you a body Z rotation as well. That's one that you might want to tinker with. So let's say like you're doing your streaming and you feel like, oh well, maybe he leans too far to the right or to the left. I think this is a fairly decent amount, but let's say you don't want him to be able to like tilt at all. You can just set these to 0, and now all of that movement, his body leaning left to right at the waist is now like entirely just turned off. It's still in your model, and you can always turn it back on. Maybe you just want it to be like, 10, -10. Oh, but see, now I put it in backwards. So when I lean to the right, he leans to the left. He leans to his left. See, so like I'm leaning to my right, but his body's leaning to the left. So if you want like a kind of sassy look, you can invert this value. I'm gonna put it on -10, +10, because I want the body to follow. I guess I rigged it backwards. But now when I lean to the right, his waist, like his whole upper body leans to the right. So by changing this value from positive to negative, you can change like the actual like output. So now again, I lean right, he leans left. So like if, I don't know, maybe you like that kind of sassy kind of look that it adds. Some VTubers have their models set that way. I'm gonna leave it at default, and I'm gonna pause because my Oreos are melting in my milk. Alright, I ate my Oreos. Now I'm going to show you body X rotation. Body X rotation is the same as the head X rotation, but for the body. They're rigged separately. So you'll notice when I look to the right, my right model's left, the body turns the other direction. So they kind of like, they counter, but maybe you want them to be the same. Easy peasy. We'll just change the output value from negative to, we'll just switch the negative and the positive one. Now when I turn right and left, his chest goes the same direction. Personally, I like the reverse look like this. I think it's a little more like dynamic, but it's really up to you. But now I'm going to show you the custom ones. So all the ones I've shown you are like the default. So these are all defaults, like for essential basic tracking. Now I'm going to show you the custom ones that I personally add to my models. So these are ones that I myself add in and set up. So these aren't default settings. These are settings that I add. Using extra special parameters. You'll notice in my commission listing I specified that I add like the iForms, and that's where some of these get used. So we're gonna do, actually let me put this to 0 really quick. I'm gonna put all these other functions to 0 so that I can add them, and then you can see kind of how they look. So brow shrink. This is one that I add so that when your eyebrows are lifted, the pupils start to shrink. So with my natural expression here, as it's tracked, I'm not making any. I'm not lifting my eyebrows. This is just like where my eyebrows sit naturally on my face. So where my eyebrows are naturally sitting, it tends to hover around 0.6, 0.5. So rather than having this at 0, as you can see, if I have it at 0, it's constantly like this parameter is now half tracked, so the eyes are half shrunk. Because it naturally, my eyebrows are not raised right now, but it's hovering at 0.5 or 0.6. I like to put 0.5. So that way, like, okay, the eyebrow, now I'm limiting the range, which I think you can actually maybe do here. I don't know. You can even put it to 0.6. That way, like, this little dot, or even 0.7. So now, like, my eyebrows aren't lifted, like, at all. And you'll see the dot is hovering, like, outside of this range, so that when I do lift it, it shoots up into, okay, now it's going up into 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. And like as my eyebrows lift higher and higher, the pupils shrink smaller and smaller. So this is a number that you'll probably want to tinker with if you feel like your pupils are like constantly shrinking all the time and it's doing it too much. You might raise this number. It's like 0.9. I have to like really, for me, I have a Jim Carrey face, so I can really lift my eyebrows. Some people can't really move their eyebrows as much. So you might need to lower or raise this number based upon like what your facial features can do. And you'll notice I have the output set to only half of the parameter, or half of the shrinkableness. So what this half means is like my eyebrows are up. Okay, I've got it as high as I can go. The pupils are shrunk, but I've actually rigged them so they can shrink smaller than this, but in here I have it limited. So if I were to put this at 0.1, they'll shrink even smaller. But I think that can be a little distracting because it is such a vast difference. So I'm going to only use half of this parameter because I only wanted to shrink like a little bit. So a lot of this is just putting values in at random and just like experimenting and seeing like what gets you the result that feels natural for your face. And now I'm going to show you brow surprise. This is the same function. It has the same input, which is brow going up. I have it turned off right now, but now I'm going to turn it back on. So when my brows are lifted, if you look at the upper eyelid here, they're not doing anything. I'm going to go ahead and put this value back in. Now when I lift my eyebrows, the eyes widen. This is a specific parameter that widens the eyes. So as my eyebrows lift, the eyes get wide. Versus without it, it looks like this. So it's not quite as like animated. You can reduce this value to like 0.5 if you don't want them to get too wide, even 0.25 if you want, so that they still widen but not as much. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at max. They get really wide because naturally, you know, when you're playing a game, your eyebrows shoot up. You're like, oh wow, your eyes. Like usually you're doing that because you are surprised, you're shocked, you're excited, so your eyebrows go up, your upper eyelid goes up, and the pupils kind of dilate a little bit. So that's what these two functions are. And you can tinker with the values on this. And now the next one I'm going to show you is smile GGG. So what this function is input is mouth smile. So that's when the camera detects that my mouth is smiling, which is the corners of the mouth. So this is a smile. My neutral expression is just this. Smile. So let me turn this one on. And again, I have a value here. Rather than having this at 0, I have it at 0.5. That way it's not constantly like... Because again, my neutral expression, my mouth is closed and I'm not smiling. But the camera like puts my neutral mouth value at 0.7. So the camera thinks I'm like 0.7% into a smile, even though this is just my resting face. So I just have this as my 0 instead of actually 0. And now I'm going to put my output, which is smile GGG. So now you'll notice the function that iForm GGG is it is only controlling the lower eyelid. So when you smile, this goes up. I'm going to lower this value a little bit, maybe 0.7. It just kind of like softens his eyes a little bit, makes him look a little happier. So like when I'm smiling, I'm like, oh yay, cool. Neutral expression, frowning. I have a really hard time like frowning. The webcam doesn't really track my frown very well. So now eyebrows going up, smile. Tongue out, I can't test because it's iPhone. The output is in here. I can't test it because I don't have an iPhone. Mouth X is also in here. I can't test it because I don't have an iPhone, so you might have to tinker with these values yourself. I can't test them. And now I'm going to show you, like, let's say you wanted to add a function. I think my personal method, I just add these, but let's say you wanted to have, like, smile and blush. So you want the blush to happen when you smile. So anytime, so we're going to do smile, mouth smile, and, like, these are the input. So this is everything that your webcam sees. Face position, face angle, mouth smile, mouth open, brows, tongue out. See, and it says iOS and Android only. So these are all of the functions that the webcam and VTube Studio can track, like even voice volume or the position of your mouse. So you could make your model's head movement follow only your mouse rather than through a webcam. Voice IUAO, like there's a lot of things in here. I actually haven't really tinkered with a bunch of them. A bunch of this is hand tracking. It's a pain in the butt. I will not do tracked hands. Sorry, it's not worth the effort. But we're gonna do mouth smile. And so when I smile, like this, I want it to output the blush. So I'm just gonna look, I think it's cheek in here. So now when I smile, the blush kind of comes on. My mouth needs to be around like 0.75. But this does happen all the time. So like when you're just speaking naturally, it's gonna like, flop back on and off. So I don't use this function. But you could, in theory, you could use your input as brows and then do the tongue out. Or hell, you could even do like cloak on. So now like my eyebrows control if this cloak comes on. Like you can get real crazy with it. Obviously this would be very distracting and crazy, but I mean you can put any input to any output. So now I'm going to show you the hotkeys, and first I'm going to show you kind of like all of the functions, all the tracked parameters in your model. So if you want to see every function that I have physically, manually rigged and input into this model, to see exactly every single individual function that your model can do, you can use expression editor. This is to create expressions, but you can view every single parameter on this model. So we're going to go ahead and just create a new expression. So in here, you'll see we can turn off physics parameters. We don't need to see those. So in here, every single one of these little things that you can turn on and off, those are all of your model's individual parameters. Every single function that is rigged into this model exists as a parameter. So what is a parameter? A parameter is a function that your model can execute. So for example, we have the, I'm going to go to the tracked parameters because those make the most sense. So I'm going to go down to my tracked params. So angle X is when I look left and right. You can now come in here and physically see, okay, what is the furthest amount that my model can look to the left or the right? This is angle X. What's angle Y? Well, let's turn it on and we can see what it is. That's the up and down movement of the model. Cool. What's angle Z? That's this movement. So you can use this to help you kind of determine the tracking functions. If you're like, I don't know what angle Z is, you can come in here and just turn it on and look at it. Body X. So this is like literally every function that I have rigged into your model is a parameter, and the parameters all play together. I don't think I have a breath. I need to do a breath, chest breath. Oh, see, so we have this lean forward function. I don't actually have that set to be tracked. So actually, while I'm here, we've got our lean forward. Let's go see if I can set that to a tracked like function in here. So we're gonna do lean forward, input. Maybe this is body. I think it's gonna be a body input. It's not a default setting, so I don't know. I've actually never rigged this function before. Input, input, input. Show me the input. Yeah, I don't see an input for this. I don't know how people rig that in. Maybe it's like physics. Let's do face position Y. And then I'm gonna output the lean forward. Let's see what face position Y is. Okay, so I'm gonna change the value here. And let's see, if I get really close to my camera, the closest I can get comfortably is gonna be -4. Alright, so I'm actually gonna put -4 up here, and I'm gonna put 10 up here. So now when I lean to the camera, is it gonna get closer? No. Let's put it back at the defaults that it was. I think it was 15 and -15. Maybe it's the wrong input. Maybe it's face position X. I've never rigged this function in, so it's one I'm gonna have to figure out. But I think it's position rather than angle. Let's set this to 0. Okay, so I'm gonna put this one 0 and I'll do this one 15. Let's see. No, it's not behaving like I want. Let's put this to 1, -1. No, that's closer. I'll have to tinker with this one, but for example, this is an example of, you know, attaching. Now when I'm leaning closer to the camera, the model kind of leans. This value I'm gonna have to tinker with and see how. And you're gonna have to put a value in here depending on how close you are to your camera. I'm gonna delete it for now. That's something that I'll tinker with later. But now I'm going to go ahead and show you the hotkeys that currently exist in this model. So we have all of these functions in the hotkey menu over here. I'm going to go ahead and use keyboard hotkeys on. Every single hotkey that exists right now, I have already set to a key. You can change the keybind. I have them set to all the F1 through F12, and then number keys 1, 2, 3, and 4. So blush is on F1. So you can set the hotkey action, which is, in this case, we're going to set an expression. We have animations, I'll show you those later, but for now we're setting an expression, and it's going to play the expression blush, which I've already made for you. And when I put, and then I can set a key combination. I set F1. And then down here, I have it set to stop after 10 seconds. So like I've pushed F1, the blush is on, and then after 10 seconds, it automatically turns itself off. Or you can do stop when keys let go. So as long as I'm holding this F1 key down, it is blushing, and when I let go, it goes away. I usually use stop after 10 seconds. That way I can activate it, or chat can activate it, and then it will turn itself off later. I won't be blushing for the whole stream because I forgot to turn it off. Same for Dread. Uses the same function. It's just on F2. Kira Kira is on F3. Oh, there we go. Heart Eyes is F4. Shocked Eyes is F5. Anger is F6. Narrow Eyes is F7. This is kind of like a weird one. I don't know if you'll ever actually use this, but it's a function that I put in your model because why not? F8, you can do like slitted cat pupils, demon pupils, whatever. The book arm is set to F9. So if you push F9, it'll turn this arm on. If you push F9, this one does not turn off after 10 seconds, so you'll have to manually turn this one off and on. But that's an expression, and we have the shirtless expression, which is F10. And it plays nicely with the arm. I did draw bicep artwork, so and separated the sleeve so you can have the book and still be shirtless at the same time if you want. We have glasses off, which is F11, so that just turns his glasses off. F12 turns off the sword. And then mouth purse is on number 1. Mouth purse is like a non-standard function. I just kind of added it in because I don't know how to do VBridger, but let's say you wanted to make him kind of have like a smoochy mouth. What it does is it just narrows the mouth like this. Blah, blah, blah. It's a function your model has. I don't know if it'll ever be used, but it's in there. And then we have animations. And you'll notice animations are set up a little differently. You do play hotkey or hotkey action. We do play animation rather than set expression because this is a motion 3 file. And I have the animation set up, so if you push 2, you get bonked. You get some bonks. Bonk, bonk. And then I have a turbo bonk, which is the same thing, but more bonks, and part of the expression is animated, so it will manually make your model like, oh fuck. We have boop, which is on key 4. Boop. You just get a little nose boop. And then key 5, head pats. So those are all the hotkeys that are currently set up in your model. But let's say you want to create your own custom hotkey using the things that are rigged in your model, because there are some functions here in your model that aren't set to a hotkey. So let's explore those. We're going to go to the expression editor and we're going to create a new expression. You can name your expression, but here you can kind of explore. So let's say you don't have an iPhone, but you still want to have the tongue out option. You can set that to a physical hotkey rather than a tracked function. But we have the shirt off, so you can turn just the shirt off. So if you wanted to keep, you know, the collar and jabot on and the vest, you can. I kind of kept I liked to keep the collar as a separate thing, just because I don't know, maybe you want to like not have a shirt, but you still want like the frilly, like, oh look at me, I'm a fancy boy. The jabot is its own function. The cloak turning on is a function that I don't have set to a hotkey for some reason, so let's go ahead and do that. So I've selected this parameter, I've turned it on, I'm gonna just go ahead and name this cloak on, save, and now we're gonna go down here. We're gonna name our new hotkey cloak on. It doesn't have to match, you can name it whatever you want. Set expression, because what we just did in the expression editor was create an expression 3 file, so I'm gonna select that. And we're gonna do cloak on, and now I can set this to control or keyboard number 6, and now you can turn your cloak on whenever you want. And I'm an organization freak, so I like to organize my stuff, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it in here. So like, oh, look at all these hotkeys, but I only want to focus on like one section of them. I want to see only animations. You can go to this little folder here, click animations, and then you'll be able to see just the animations, and then you can just close this. But let's go back to the expression editor and explore some more a little bit. Create new expression. Like you can just go crazy with it, man. Oh, you'll notice I have the shocked eye. This turns on the shocked eye, but the regular eyes are still on. You can turn those off. So the shocked eye expression actually uses 2 parameters. But like you can put a bunch of parameters on, like just stick them all on. Like you can create your own expression by just toggling these things on. That's kind of why I make a bunch of extra toggles. So like the iForm toggles are not like a standard hotkey that people add, but I like to add them just because it helps make the eyes a little more expressive. VBridger probably uses similar parameters. But yeah, let's say you wanted to make him sad. You can turn iForm sad on. We can scroll down to the brows and we can make them go down. We can make the brows like turn kind of up, and then we can change the brow form to be the sad shape. And you'll notice like now when I lift my eyebrows, the eyebrows aren't moving. That's because I am physically overriding brow Y. So if I turn these off, now if I lift my eyebrows, they'll move. But I'm physically overriding them. So for example, I can blink, the tracking is blinking, but if I turn this on, it's overriding the tracked function. So now like when I blink, this eye still stays open or it stays closed. Let's see. So like the mouth forms, you can force him to, like if you want to use the sad expression as a hotkey, you can force him to always have the frown. I mean, it will limit your mouth forms. So now I don't have like these other shapes, but like this will work in a pinch, to just kind of like really force him to look sad. So I'm gonna just name this as sad. And now I can set that on a new hotkey. So I'm gonna name it sad. Set expression, it's gonna be called sad, and we're gonna put this on key 7. Oh, and I wanna make it stop after 10 seconds. So now you can like physically, like if you're having trouble having the model like track a sad look, you can set it to hotkey. And then it will kind of override your tracking to make him look sad. Cause like I have a really hard time getting my face to track sad or angry like expressions. So you can set them to a hotkey. I'm gonna put that in facial expression. And same thing, you can use tons of things, or the expression editor, create an expression. Go crazy, explore. You can make a bunch of expressions with this. You can turn all of the eye forms on if you want. For some reason, you just really want to make his eyes like a shape. Like, go ham, man. Like, go crazy. That's what these are here for. And oh, I need to show you the arms and the hands. So everything below arms and hands, these are all functions for arm posing. So for example, this arm, his left arm, is not like animated. It's just perpetually stuck in this pose. But his right arm is animated, and I can make a left animated arm if you want. I kind of like the pocket look, but if you want both of his arms to be adjustable, I can easily set that up, because it's in here. This is bicep L, but because there's no a left arm that functions with this one, it's not going to do anything. But this is bicep R, so by default his default arm is this one that you can kind of like manually pose. It's not perfect. You get like, we get some issues here, but in a pinch it'll work. So I can like do that. Not left, but the right forearm I can also rotate. So like if you wanted him to put his hand in front of his chest, well, his arm is behind his body. Why that? I have another function here called forearm draw. So what this is it's the draw, also known as layering order. So if I move it up, now the artwork is going to be above the body. If I move it down, it's going to be below. So you can manually like pose your model like this. It's not like perfect, it's not exact. I think models look better with separate drawn arm poses like this, rather than trying to like manually pose it. But I mean, it exists in here. He also has hand poses for this arm specifically. So I can use it to make a wave animation, so we can wave. I'll create an animation for that. But let's say you wanted him to just keep his palm open and up. Yeah, because he has 3 hands. He's got this hand, which you'll probably never use. I rigged it in here just because it's what I usually do. It's just like the neutral hand, but I like this one better. So this is the default. This is his second hand. And then this one's like the palm open hand. But let's say you want him to kind of be like this, and you can pose the wrist. So let's say you want him to kind of just like gesture outwardly like this. Well, let's just name this arm R gesture. Save. We're going to set this to a hotkey. Arm R gesture. Hotkey action. Set unset expressions. And I don't think other artists usually do arms like this. I think I'm just kind of like a weird little dude. But I kind of like to try and give people options. I hate commitment, so I like to just like give people options. So now you have an arm gesture that you can just have him sticking his arm out. So I'm going to put this in arm poses. And so this is set to a hotkey. Very cool. And now I'm going to show you the item pinning function, just so like, oh, well, I want him to I can use this arm gesture now because it exists, and I can pin an item to his hand. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it because YouTube tutorials will cover it better, and this video is already getting really long. But like, here you go. His arm's out with his arm gesture hotkey set to key 8. You can go to item settings over here on this little, come back over here. You can like pin items to his hand. So let's change the item order. This is the layer the model's on, which is 0. Negative means it's going to be behind the model, and positive is going to be above the model. So I'm going to just stick it there. Why not? And now I can take this Bepis, I can put it on his hand, let go, and now you have a Bepis. Oh, you got a Bepis. Very good. So this is kind of like a MacGyver, like janky option for you to be able to just like, oh, well, I want him to hold a boba for a stream, or I want him to hold a bat, or I want him to hold an item. I want him to hold bread. Here, just have some bread. Here you go. Loaf of bread for chat. Here you go, chat. So it's kind of like an option. You'll want to probably, because now when I turn the arm away, that bread still stays. You can create, it's called an item scene. I'm just going to name this one bread. And I'm going to name this Jacques hand. That way, anytime you change the hand option or an item on hand, you watch a tutorial on this, it'll go into more detail. I'm just setting it up very jankily. Okay, we're going to go to the hotkey menu again. Oh, nope, that's not it. This one. All right. And now arm gesture is on number 8, so I'm going to put arm bread. Hotkey action we're going to do, it is a item pin, toggle item scene. I'm going to choose bread. I'm going to set this to hotkey 9. So now I can toggle that bread off and on. So now, let's turn the arm off with 8. Now I can push 9 to turn that off. Or if you really wanted to only have him always hold bread, you could set it to the same hotkey. Press 8, and now when I turn that arm on, he's holding bread. Like, there is a lot you can do with VTube Studio. This is probably the longest model tutorial I've ever done. I've never recorded one that's 40 minutes long. But, like, this is just barely scraping the surface. Like, I rigged the models, and there's a lot of tracking and stuff you can tinker with, but then like you get into item pinning or dynamic lighting. There is so much you can do with VTube Studio. Like, just having a model is step 1. There's a billion freaking things you can do in VTube Studio, such as hold bread. But this tutorial has gotten really long. And I know it's like a lot to take in, assuming you haven't used VTube Studio or ever used a live 2D model before. My models are rigged a little differently. So if you're ever like, okay, can I have my model do this thing? Just ask me, and I can tell you, yes, you can have your model do that thing. I have it set up so that you can use these parameters to do that. Or I'll tell you, no, your model can't do that thing, but we can rig that in later if you want. Yeah, this video is 40 minutes long now, Jesus Christ. But here's your bread. And I hope this is insightful to kind of like get you started on your VTubing journey. I'm so proud of this model. I love him. Look at him. Look at him in this bread. Look at him in this bread. He's so cute. He's so cute. Okay. I think I'm done now. Bye.